There are places that carry dark stories and secrets that time has tried to bury. And Japan has one of these. In the land of the rising sun, there is an island that, at first glance, looks like a fairy tale, dominated by fluffy rabbits that hop around everywhere. But don't let the enchanting appearance fool you. Behind this image lies a dark and tragic past that few know about. Buried secrets, horrors that defy the imagination, and a link between these rabbits and events that have marked history in a sinister way. What is this place? What makes these rabbits linked to so much suffering? Get ready, because today Bello Mundo is going to take you to Japan to reveal the secrets of an island whose past would make any horror script look like nothing. When you think of Japan, the image that probably comes to mind is of bright, vibrant metropolises, ancient temples, or even legendary samurai, right? But what many people don't realize is that this fascinating country is actually an immense archipelago with thousands of islands scattered across the Pacific Ocean. Each little piece of land has something special to reveal, carrying unique stories, traditions, and scenery. To give you an idea, until recently, Japan had 6,852 islands officially mapped. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But in 2023, the country discovered around 7,000 new islands that were not officially registered. Now, there are more than 14,000 islands. But what makes Japan really special is not just the number of islands or their landscapes, but the incredible way in which it mixes the old and the new. Millennia-old traditions intertwine with countless festivals that are part of everyday life for more than 125 million people. In addition, Japan has Shinto shrines that seem out of this world, Buddhist temples that exude peace, ancient trails blazed by traders centuries ago, and gardens that look like works of art. And for those who think they've seen it all, Japan still has bizarre things like adopting adults to maintain bloodlines. And we're not talking about adopting orphan children or lost youngsters. We're talking about adult men in their 20s and 30s being adopted by business families. That's right. It may seem strange to those who don't know, but in Japan, adult adoption is common practice and has a very specific purpose. Almost 98% of adoptions in Japan involve these new heirs, who are often sons-in-law or trusted employees. This tradition began centuries ago when it was crucial to ensure the continuity of family businesses. If a family had no male children to inherit the business, they would adopt a son-in-law or even a promising employee to keep the legacy intact. And this practice persists to this day. Giants such as Toyota and Suzuki still use this strategy to ensure that the helm remains in the hands of someone with close ties, even if it's not by blood. In other words, adoption here is not just about affection, but a strategic move to preserve control and the future of the company in a country where, culturally, the role of women in command still faces many barriers. And of course, it's impossible to talk about Japan without talking about the food. Japanese cuisine is a world apart, going far beyond sushi. Ramen, with its regional varieties, is an explosion of flavors, while takoyaki, which are octopus dumplings in Osaka, are a real feast for the palate. And for the more adventurous, there are curious dishes such as fugu, a puffer fish that needs to be prepared with extreme care to avoid the risk of poisoning. Choosing where to start exploring Japan? Good luck. With so many interesting things to see, the mission is difficult. The archipelago has 4 main islands: Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku, and each of them is like a world apart. Honshu is the largest, where Tokyo sets the pace, but you only have to leave the capital to find Kyoto, where the ancient temples, Zen gardens, and streets seem to have been kept in time, whispering stories from another era. In the north, Hokkaido has a different vibe. In summer, lavender fields delight the eye. In winter, a snow festival enchants passers-by. Sapporo, known for its beer and ice sculptures, is not far behind when it comes to surprises. Kyushu is the island of hot springs and active volcanoes. Beppu is a must for those who want to relax in the hot springs, while Kagoshima offers a special show with Sakurajima, one of Japan's most active volcanoes. And finally, Shikoku, the smallest of the four, is famous for the Way of 88 temples. The pilgrims, called Henro, walk through mountains, villages, and towns, either to find inner peace or to honor traditions. But there's nothing easy about it. There are 1,200 kilometers of sheer endurance. Now, in addition to these larger islands, Japan hides some very curious ones, with unique histories and some that even seem haunted. One of them is Okunoshima, where more than 1,000 rabbits run free through the fields, as if every day were Easter. In the tranquil Seto Inland Sea, there is an island that, at first glance, seems straight out of an enchanting tale, Okunoshima, the famous Rabbit Island. But behind this cute, almost magical image lies a much darker and more complex story. In fact, Japan is full of such dark contrasts. Did you know that there are young people in Japan who remain isolated for years in their rooms and apartments? Have you ever heard of young people marrying dolls and video game characters? If that scared you, just wait until you meet the Japanese citizens who seek help from clandestine companies to disappear off the map and leave their identities behind. About this hidden face, we have a video here on the channel that will shock you. So, after that watch, Japan's parallel world, the path of darkness, like you've never seen it. But back to our island. Visitors arrive attracted by the rabbits that run freely, but few imagine that Okunoshima holds a terrifying secret. This small island lies in the same archipelago of Japan, where Hiroshima was marked by one of the greatest tragedies in world history. But unlike the destruction caused by external forces, the horror of Okunoshima was the result of Japan's own hands. Until the late 1920s, Okunoshima was an ordinary island inhabited by fishermen and farmers who led a peaceful life. But to understand how this piece of land became a center for the production of chemical weapons, we need to go back to the Japan of the 1920s and 1930s, a time of rising nationalism and expansionist ambitions. At that time, Japan faced challenges that went beyond its borders. With scarce natural resources, the country was desperately seeking to expand in order to guarantee its economic survival and establish itself as a dominant power in Asia. To this end, the strategy adopted was to conquer territories rich in raw materials, such as oil and minerals, in order to reduce dependence on Western powers. And so the Japanese government adopted an aggressive policy of expansion, fueled by a nationalist fervor that defended Japan's prominent place in the world. Militarism took hold of the government, which came to be guided by the armed forces. While other countries tried to limit the arms race with treaties and agreements, Japan saw these initiatives as threats, restrictions that had to be overcome. Resentment grew and the response was clear. Japan needed to strengthen its military power. Among the various strategies adopted was the production of chemical weapons, and this is where Okunoshima comes into the story. Isolated and easy to control, the island was chosen as a strategic point. In 1929, the Imperial Japanese Army began building facilities for the manufacture of poisonous gases, including the dreaded mustard gas, in open disregard of international treaties. Workers were taken to the island unaware of the danger that awaited them. The conditions were unhealthy and dangerous, and many ended up falling ill from continuous exposure to the chemicals. It was a real horror show. Mobilized workers and even students took part in the production of poisonous gas without knowing what they were really doing. Just to give you an idea, even today, more than 2,000 people across Japan are living with disabilities or health problems caused by exposure to Okunoshima's chemicals. The facilities included factories, warehouses, and testing areas, all under strict control to prevent any information leaks. And do you know what the Japanese government did to ensure that no one knew what was going on there? Okunoshima was literally wiped off the map. Everything was kept absolutely secret. The workers, often unaware of the real risks, faced precarious conditions while producing more than 6,000 tons of toxic gas. This focus on chemical weapons was a clear reflection of a Japan that was determined to strengthen itself militarily and consolidate its power in the region. But then came the tragic end of the war. After the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan surrendered in 1945, and operations on the island ceased abruptly. Trying to erase any trace of this dark period, the Japanese government destroyed documents, buried toxic waste, and tried to eliminate all evidence. American forces supervised the shutdown of the facilities and the cleanup of the site, but the environmental and health damage persisted for many years, a legacy that is hard to forget. It wasn't until the 1970s that the island began to transform. With the efforts of the government and local authorities, Okunoshima was converted into a tourist destination and a symbol of historical memory, revealing to the world the marks that this chapter left behind. And then you might be wondering, how did the rabbits get into all this? The truth is that nobody knows for sure, and this is one of the great mysteries of Okunoshima. There is no definitive theory as to how these animals took over the island, but some stories are circulating. One hypothesis is that the rabbits were brought here to serve as guinea pigs in poison gas tests. According to this idea, the rabbits that roam the island today would be descendants of the few that survived that dark period, especially after the arms factories were closed down. But there's another theory that makes things even more curious. They say that, after the Second World War, a school trip took the rabbits to Okunoshima, and they stayed there, doing what rabbits do best, multiplying quickly. Whatever the true version, one thing is certain. With the end of arms production and the island abandoned, the rabbits took over. With no natural predators to threaten them, they were able to spread at will. Today, it is estimated that there are around 1,000 rabbits living there, turning Okunoshima into a veritable paradise for animal lovers. Visiting Okunoshima is quite an experience. The island has a refuge-like atmosphere where the rabbits roam free and are used to human contact. You can play with them, stroke them, and even feed them. Those who go there can bring fruit and vegetables to please them. But there are some restrictions to ensure the health of the animals. And of course, no dogs or cats, as they are forbidden to protect the rabbits. But it's not all cuteness. With the increase in tourism, some problems have started to arise. Many visitors don't follow the rules and end up leaving food scraps all over the island. This attracts crows and other predators from the surrounding areas, which can put the rabbits at risk. The local authorities are constantly working to find a balance between the influx of tourists and the protection of the big ears. But of course, Okunoshima has much more to offer than rabbits. The island is a real treat for the eyes with its breathtaking natural landscapes. Surrounded by a coastline of crystal-clear waters, it's impossible not to be enchanted by its beaches and views. To the southwest of the island, you'll find the Hill of the Evening Sun, a perfect place to watch an unforgettable sunset. And don't forget to look out for the lighthouse at the southern tip. Even though it's closed to visitors, it's still a striking sight. Okunoshima is also home to Japan's largest electricity tower, standing an impressive 226 meters high. And for those who want to immerse themselves in history, the island is also home to the Poison Gas Museum. This place tells a heavy but necessary story. Among the notebooks, work clothes, and old equipment of the workers, the museum recalls the destructive power of chemical weapons and the years when Okunoshima was a production center for this type of weaponry. Many of the gases produced there were used during the Japanese invasion of China in the 1930s and 1940s. In addition, Okunoshima still preserves the ruins of former military installations. These are concrete structures, abandoned after Japan's defeat in the Second World War, which look like something out of a horror movie. Some areas are restricted for security reasons, but much of the island is open to those who wish to explore and learn more about this complex history. If you want to extend the experience, Okunoshima even has a hotel. It combines modern comfort with the island's historic charm, offering a unique experience, and even has a small golf course. You can enjoy the contact with nature, immerse yourself in the memories of the past, and of course, spend even more time with the famous rabbits. In fact, no matter where you go, the rabbits are there to accompany you on your adventures. And so we come to the end of our trip to Okunoshima, the island of the rabbits. Now we want to hear from you. What did you find most striking? Okunoshima's military past, or the island's transformation with its countless rabbits? Let us know in the comments. If you like content that explores stories like this, keep following us to discover more places with unique and unexpected stories. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We'll see you in the next episode of our Bello Mundo journey.